So first and foremost, thank you so much for being here. I know that you could have picked any session, so I really appreciate you coming to mine this morning. And I think it's great that y'all are here and ready to learn. My name is Gabby. I am a fourth grade dual language teacher at East Point Elementary. And there in the bottom right corner of my screen, you'll see I've included my email just in case any of you have any questions, you want to reach out for me for any assistance, anything like that. I'm always willing to help. So the topic of the session today is going to go over how you can train your students in data tracking and self-monitoring. And so when I got the title and I got the ideas when Shelly sent out the different topics, I was just like, wow, this is a great track reference. So we're going to use it for this session. At any time, if you have any questions, comments, if I'm going too fast, if I'm going too slow, just stop me, raise your hand, chat box, I'm here, okay? I'm by no means an expert at this, but I do think that I've had enough experience and I do have some knowledge that I can share with you all. So again, just appreciate you being here. Okay, so right now the chat box is open and it's time to represent. So I want you to proudly show which campus you're representing. Open up the chat, tell me your school, position, what do you teach, what's your role? This is your time to rep your campus. I just want to get an idea of different demographic I have here, the groupings here. Let's see. See a lot of my East Point people here. Isleta Middle. Mr. Rodriguez, East Point 4th. I love it. I think I saw Pebble Hills, Parkland Pre-Engineering Middle School. That's awesome. Capistrano. Cedar Grove, good. Eastwood Knolls, awesome. All right, good. So we've got a good variety here. We have PE coaches. We have, yes, Ms. Poblano, our principal. Good morning. Thank you for being here. We have some middle school, PE, SPED. So this is great. And I really, really hope it's going to help all of us here learn a little bit more about data tracking and monitoring for the kiddo. So thank you for that. I'm going to go over a little bit of my own experience with the blended learning. So we know that our virtual world of teaching, it's not the easiest right now. It's not ideal, right? We're not in the classroom with the kiddos like we used to be, but the blended approach is still very attainable. So this would be my second full year doing blended learning at my campus. I did start out implementing blended in math, solely in math, but then I started integrating it more in my reading block as well. And I really saw how the kids benefited. So my personal goal this year is to try to now extend it to writing. I know I'm crazy, but as a fourth grade teacher and honing in on those writing skills, that's what I want to try to do with the kiddos. A lot of time does go into the planning process, but we all know that it can be done. And of course, if we're going to train our students to track their data and to self-monitor, it has to be followed through in order for it to be fully successful. On this next slide here, I picked a quote that I found from Kathleen McClaskey. She's actually a founder of Make Learning Personal, and she's also a consultant for Universal Design Learning. I know that a lot of us went to the training, I believe it was last year or 2 summers ago. So this quote really reflects, and it stood out to me when I was thinking about the blended learning approach. And it just simply states, personalized learning is not what is done to the learner or about tailoring the learning. It's about helping each learner identify and develop the skills they need to support and enhance their own learning, so that agency and self-advocacy can be realized. And I was like, wow, that's perfect. That's exactly what blended is all about. So now I'm going to go into the blended pillars. The focus today, I really want to hone in on pillar 3, which is student agency. So I just kind of zoomed in a little bit on the strategies that are aligned to student agency. And as you can just look through the bullet points there, this is everything we've been taught, everything we've been trained. So we're going to discuss more about these goals. And I just wanted to show you exactly where are we taking this data tracking from, where is the self-monitoring stemming from, and where does it fit in blended learning? So again, it's pillar 3 right there. So now I have a little question here for you, a little poll. And I think Mr. Rowan's in the meeting. You'll love a lot of my GIFs this morning, Mr. Rowan. This quickly question I have is, how often do you have, let me see, hold on. I have my two computers. So I'm trying to see. There you go. How often do you have your students track their own data within your classroom? So as you're thinking about that, I'm going to set up the poll questions in the Google Meets, and I'm just going to push it out to you. So just think, how often do you have your students track their own data? Okay, so here's the poll. And I'm going to go with my options. And I love this new Google Meets update because you can do all this stuff that's interactive with the kiddos, keeping them engaged. And of course, I'm trying to keep you all engaged. I know it's the last session of the day and it's your Saturday, so hopefully this is a little positive for you. All right, so there we go. And okay, you should get it. Let's see if you get that. Well, if it's sent out to you. So again, the question is, how often do you have your students track their own data within your classroom? And your option one is several times a week. You may take 1 or 2 days, 3 days maybe to work with your kids. Whenever, once a week, maybe you just take a Friday when we're doing those intervention groups, or a Monday morning. I have also option 3 says whenever there's a free moment, which of course we all have all the free time, right? And the last one is, I have yet to implement data tracking. And this is just more for your own self-reflection. Just kind of think, okay, am I really doing it? How often? So I'll give everybody about another 30 seconds or so to answer. I know some of you are putting it in the chat, and that's great. I appreciate that. Okay. Miss Marisol says once a week. Good, good. Monthly. Oh, Miss Chavez says monthly. Okay, good, good. So we're all kind of in different areas when it comes to the tracking and how often we're doing it, and that's okay. We all have our different methods of teaching, right? Miss Fuentes, after iStation or any unit assessment. Great. That's really, really good. So thank you all so much for participating. So for me, myself, when I'm doing the data tracking, I try really, really hard, just like Missy Fuentes said, to do it after iStation, do it after unit assessments, or at least once a week with the kiddos. Like Friday's a good time and Monday's a good time. And that works for me. You have to find what works for you in your classroom and with your teaching methods. So don't think there's one right answer on how to do this. So Mr. Rowan, get ready for this next image coming up. So what is student data tracking exactly? And believe me, when I first started the blended journey, I felt just like David here. If y'all are familiar with this show, I was obsessed. Like, I think I binge watched it within a matter of days. So I'm going to be using a little bit of the images here. So I did feel like David, where I was like, what is it? What do you mean student data track? Because we as teachers, we hear the word data so many times. PLC, faculty meetings, grade level meetings. We can disaggregate and look at data up, down, backwards, sideways, all the different ways. So data now is the norm, right? But how do we flip that and give the responsibility to the students? So that's what we're going to look at today. Okay. So when it comes to whole class data tracking, we all are used to the traditional wall charts, right? We can all see, we walk into a classroom and we see the data walls, we see the charts real pretty with the stickers, we see the little kids shading up. And it's a great way to display class progress. It's a great way for us and the students to see how they're growing individually, how the class is as a whole. And of course, for us teachers, it's a great visual as well to see how we're doing. So now we're looking at individual data tracking. This is the data that is managed by the students. Okay, we put all the responsibility on them to be able to do their own data tracking. And it says here, the students receive their results from tests, excuse me, or independent work. It gives the students the opportunity to see their own progress. It gives them ownership of their learning by setting their own personal goals. It allows them to work on needed objectives at their own pace. And the best part about individual data tracking for the students is it takes the workload off the teacher. And we're like, yes, we get a little break from having to do so much. Yes, the kids take ownership and it kind of takes a little bit off of us. So hopefully that brightens your spirits a little bit and gives you a sense of relief. So, and again, here's another reference to the show. I think this character, Alexis, she's perfect example of how I felt when we started, right? And maybe you feel the same when it comes to starting the data tracking for the kiddos. So we ask, what can be utilized to guide the tracking of data for our students? You're probably asking yourself, what am I going to do? What am I going to use? How do I start? So I'm going to just show you some real quick, easy ways that we can start data tracking. And as some of you mentioned in the chat earlier, you're doing it with iStation, unit assessments. And that's exactly the examples I have right here. District created assessments, of course, are a great way to see if the kids are capturing the concepts, if they're understanding what the content is, math, reading, writing, but also teacher created tests. We use STEM scopes, of course, for the assessments that we do. I know as a grade level with my 4th grade team, we've done this and we push it out to the kiddos. So that's a great and easy way to get immediate feedback since everything's loaded. Plus you have the TEKS features on there, and we'll look at that in a little bit. Also, the digital apps that we have in Clever, those are great also for tracking the skills. Imagine Math lessons, Imagine Math facts, iStation, they can check their tier movement, and also Ed Galaxy, of course, because the kiddos know that when they get into Ed Galaxy, I think one of the best things they like is when they achieve the 3 stars. They're always like, I'm trying to get my 3 stars. I'm trying to get my 3 stars. So that's a great motivator as well. So these are just some options for you. As I said, the district assessments or the apps that the kids use on a daily basis. All right, so now it's time for a little breakout session. I'm going to put y'all in breakout groups. And the question I want you to start thinking about is, what are some other resources that you are using or would like to use for data collection? Maybe something different than what I've mentioned. Do you have a different resource? Do you have different options, opinions that you'd like to share? Or maybe even something that you're like, hey, I would love to use that. I just haven't had the chance to. So I'm going to put you into the breakout rooms, and you're going to have about 4 minutes just to kind of discuss with each other, share some ideas, bounce off of one another. I think it'd be really, really great. So we have, oh, this will work out perfect. I can put you into 9 rooms, and there's about 4 or 5 of you each. That's great. Let me put the timer on. All right. So like I tell my kids, once it says join, the magic happens. And I'll see you all after 4 minutes. Good morning, Mr. Alvarado. I can put you into a breakout room if you'd like. What they're discussing right now is what are some other resources you're using or would like to use for data collection. Are you okay if I put you in a breakout room?
I was already in one, but I clicked something that I wasn't supposed to, and it kicked me
Okay.
out. But let me try to join back in.
Does it give you the option to join back?
Yes, breakout 5.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hello, welcome back. Okay, they start coming in little by little. Good. Okay, I think everybody's back. So I hope you had some good discussions or at least kind of shared some ideas and you were able to learn from one another. So now let's see who's feeling like this lady here. Pick me. I want to know, what are some of the resources that you all talked about? Is anybody going to be a brave soul and be super excited to just share what they talked about?
Well, I'll talk, Miss Molly.
All right, go ahead, Miss Molly.
With the younger children, I get a lot of parent input. You know, see what kind of observations they see at home with their child. I compare my observations with their observations.
Oh, I like that. See, and that's good because we have the perspective that you have of the younger ones in pre-K. So that's good. They were able to see different levels of the, the grades and all that. So that's good. Thank you, Miss Molly.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to share? And if I don't see you with your hand raised, just unmute because I can't see everybody. You make me pick on someone. Okay, how about, let's see. I see Ms. Diana Gomez. You're smiling. You look ready. Would you like to share, Ms. Gomez?
Yes, we were talking about, and I was explaining to them how at our campus, we use Achieve 3000. I'm an 8th grade ELAR teacher.
Okay.
So a lot of the data we collect as far as lexile levels and stuff, we'll use Achieve 3000 and iStation as well. So that's how we use our data, and we know what different tweaks and what different things we need to work with our students based off of that data.
Oh, perfect. See, I'm glad another grade level. I had the pre-K and then I have 8th grade. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Again, I hope you all were able to learn a little something from those in your group. Okay. So next, ask the question, now what? How do my students keep track? Tell me how do they do it? Well, there's a lot of ways, and I'm just going to share a few with you this morning. So the first one that we know about is, of course, data folders, right? We use them in the classroom, whether it be a binder, whether it be a sheet. The kiddos use stickers, they shade the different colors, and they mess up, they go and they shade again. So this is all very familiar to us. But what happened? 2020 happened. And so all that went away. So take a moment. I want you to just look at these memes, take it in, and I will sit and commiserate with you as we feel the effects of 2020 teaching. And that is an actual picture of me from last weekend drinking my tea. I had to color my hair since because the stress was just, too much. So that's how we feel, right? So now the digital data tracking has shifted from the hard copy folders and binders to now doing digital data folders. So the way that I work with it with my kiddos, and I'm sure everybody here does as well, is we post everything in Google Classroom. So what I do with my kids, in the topic section, I link a digital data topic, and I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen over there so I can show you exactly what the kids do. Okay, so let me open up. I've got all my tabs ready for you. So here is my Google Classroom. And of course, the kids know, they already know this, and this is part of the training. This is part of coaching the kiddos to get into monitoring their data. So I've posted a direct link to my bulb, and the kids have access to it. So they know that when my link is there, they'll go into my bulb portfolio. And this is loading for you all. Can you see it okay? Yeah, okay. Of course, when you need things done quickly, they don't work the way you want to. So you need to drink your coffee in the middle, that's fine. All right, here we go. So there's the bulb. So the kids have access directly from their Google Classroom, and they're able to scroll down. And I have two main important links that I share with them, which is our class data. And that looks like this. So they'll open up the class data, and they also have a separate link in their classroom as well. And I've posted, for example, when we took our 8-week comprehensive test, I don't mind showing you my class data. It's fine, it's here. They'll see it like this, so they can get all their TEKs. And just to save their names, I'm going to go back over here. But they also have, oops, hold on, I'm sorry about that. They also have access to the TEKs. So let's say they open up the data and they see their name, and for example, they're like, oh man, I didn't get 4.2A, I got a 0. What is that? The kids here now have access to all of the TEKs for math, and they have all of the subjects. So they can see, I don't know what 4.2A is. Oh, look, it's place value. So they're able to do that. And I've also shared those direct links in the Google Classroom for them as well, just in case, because some of them couldn't open it up. And what I like is, let's say the kids are on my bulb, or they're looking at their data and they didn't do good in that TEK. So then they know that they can then go into Education Galaxy and get those 3 stars in their study plan. So I'm now going to switch over to Ed Galaxy. And what I love about Ed Galaxy is you can go in as a student, so you can see the student view. And that's what I'm going to do with you all here. So I'm going to pretend I'm a 4th grade student in Miss Graham's class. I'm going to choose 4th grade. And of course, whatever subject or whatever grade you have, you can use that. I don't believe, I'm looking up here, it goes up to grade 6. So I don't believe middle school has this. Okay, so I'm logging in. And then this is where the kids go. They already know, again, part of the training, they already know where to go. They would go into my study plan. They could go into math. And then all they have to do is look for the TEK that they need to improve on. And for example, that student was not too good on 4.2A place value. Right here, it's the one under numbers and operations. Then they can click the green arrow and work towards their stars. So I really, really like how they can do that. Okay. The next thing that well, real quick, hold on. Does anybody have questions as far as the Ed Galaxy and how to access that? I know the kids know how to get into it, but I hope that my student view kind of helped you a little bit. Yeah, Deanna, go ahead. Go ahead, Deanna.
Gabby, at what percentage do you give them a TEK to work on? Like last year I understood it was more like 70 and above, where they weren't like completely that they didn't completely fail the TEK, but that they had like just kind of like a weak 70s. Like, do you still suggest that? Because I've heard from other people too that if they scored really, really low on a TEK, like what is the best? What do you think?
Okay, I like that question, Deanna. There's actually two ways I can do it. On the Eduphoria, when we get the report like I just showed you, that gives the whole class data, if they have anything red, like they didn't master it, they got a 0, for sure that one. But on other assignments, maybe like a little quiz or a test, it really depends on the subject. For like math, a meets is 71%. So I kind of tell the kids, if you're not at that 71, your goal is to reach that meets standard. And the reason I say meets is because they didn't take the 3rd grade last year. You know, our kiddos in 4th grade didn't take it. So I want them to at least meet the grade level. So it just kind of depends on what it is you're having them be assessed on. If it's a quiz, district assessment, homework, something like that. Did that kind of answer for you a little bit?
Yes, thank you. So anything red, you would think more. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Thank
and of course,
you.
you think of your SPED population too. Depending on them, what's their goal? What's their percentage goal they're going to meet? You know, our kids in RTI and all of that. So, great question, Deanna. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now I want to show you the data trackers that my students use in the classroom. And I'm going to share a student one from one of my kiddos. And this is just a data tracker that I made. Honestly, it was very generic. I made it really quickly. Excuse me, I made it fairly quickly, but it's worked for my kids. And I think I made this one last year. We went on some blended visits, and one of the elementary schools had 1st graders or 2nd graders using digital data trackers. I was like, oh, I got to get my kids on this. So it's just a basic Excel sheet. And so the kiddos, my 4th graders didn't take STAR. Well, no, none of our kids took STAR last year. So they don't have really anything to go on. They don't really have a goal. So I set all of them at meets. So what I do is I put all the unit tests here. When I give the kids their grade, their score, they go in themselves and they input what they got. And as you can see, everything's color coded. And it's, again, fairly easy to customize the cells. That's a whole nother thing. You can, contact me later if you'd like to learn about that. But the approach is I put a range between 50 and 70, so it'll come out as purple. The meets, they know it's going to be blue, and masters, of course, is green. So this student, she's in the beginning was kind of struggling, but of course she did a lot better. So that's where I have the kids input their score, and this goes along with that self-monitoring so they can see, oh man, multiplication really killed me. So then they know they have to get better at the multiplication. There's different tabs for all of the subjects. I even have them do a tab for iStation. And I give them all of their information, all of their numbers, so that they know where they're at, if they've fallen behind, if they've improved, what do they need to improve better on. So this is another part of their data tracker. And then for my EL students, they have their TELPAS tracker. And so here they have, or I put their 2020 score, how they did in 2020. And then I put their goal for 2021, which is just one step ahead. So the kids already know, we talked about this at the beginning of the year, they already know where they're at. And down here, I tell them that they can reach their goal by reviewing any feedback that I give them. If I assign them flip grids or something where they're orally speaking, I immediately give them the feedback. And I've also included a student rubric here. I have a rubric I'm going to share with you right now that, thanks to the help of the ELPS department at Central, they helped me develop and work alongside with me on the student-friendly TELPAS rubric. So the kids have access to this also. Another benefit of them self-monitoring for TELPAS. So they're able to see, okay, if last year listening, I was a beginning student, how am I going to become intermediate? So that helps them a lot too. Alrighty, any questions about these so far?
Miss Graham, you just have a couple of people asking if you could share like documents.
Oh yes, oh the data tracker and all that.
And this rubric and stuff like that.
I sure will. If you all don't mind, at maybe towards the end, the last few minutes, I'll give you my email again, or even my phone number, whatever you need, and just shoot it to me. But I will definitely share it. I have no problem with that, of course. Thank you, Ms. Matias, for that. Okay, so we're going to go back to the presentation here. Alrighty, so the next thing I wanted to talk to you about is also helping the kids track that non-academic data. We see the academics all the time, and we know it's important. Yes, we know content, math, reading, writing, it's super important. But also for the kids, especially right now in the virtual world, they need that non-academic growth also. So some of the things that you can track with your kids is their SMART goals. I'm going to show you an example of that in just a bit also. They can track attendance, behavior, maybe social skills, students who have social skills goals. Shifting a mindset. A lot of our students right now have come into the virtual learning very negatively. So maybe you can help them track to have a more positive outlook on what they're doing. Study habits, completing assignments on time. So these are some non-academic things you can do with the kiddos. What I've sent to my students, and I'm going to share this with you. I did ask, of course, the student permission also, is we have discussed our SMART goals. And I know that you all have heard, or I hope you've heard of SMART goals before. It's also part of the blended learning. And these are what's going to help kids and even ourselves as adults reach a goal that is very important to us, something that we have a passion for. So I shared with the students what SMART goals are. We know they're specific. We know they're measurable, something that you can actually see yourself making progress towards. Something that's attainable. So I tell the kids, do you think you can reach it? I was very specific in saying, don't say you want to be a millionaire by the time you're 10 years old. Like that's something that's not, it's not reasonable. We talk about relevance and of course, time bound. So this gives the kids an opportunity to think about a goal that they're really passionate about and how they can reach it. I give them, of course, we say we want to model. So I sent my kids my own example of my SMART goal and how I'll get it. And we talked about all of the different parts. And then this student, it was really, really cute. So I'm not super familiar with Fortnite, but this student said they wanted to get better in Fortnite. At first I was like, what? Like, no video games. Come on now. Like, let's go away from that. But then I gave him a chance. I said, okay, tell me why. And so he goes on and he's explaining to me, and you'll see right here under the relevancy, he says he wants to be a content creator in the future. I was like, oh, okay. So now I see that connection. He wants to build content. He wants to design video games, and he went on and on and on. And of course, he said he wants to reach the goal in 3 months of getting better. So I was like, oh, okay. So then I can accept that as a goal, right? A SMART goal. So that's just another example, again, you can do with your kids so you don't feel like school is just all about work. Like make it fun. I'll go to the next one here. Another non-academic goal that I do with the kids, and all my East Point people here know, is Spartan U. So Spartan University is like a reading challenge, reading goal that the kids have, where in the past, they would get different levels of achievement based on the number of books, 50, 100, 150, 200 books that they'd read in the entire year. But this year it changed a little bit, and I do feel it's a little bit more blended. I really like it because instead of telling the kids, well, you can only get a prize if you reach 50 books, that's the minimum. Now it's like, no, the kids set the goals. How many books do I want to read in the year? And if I meet that goal, I'll reach an achievement. So let me switch tabs again. And I'm going to show you all and share. Again, I can share this with, pop me your email. I'll share everything with you. So this, here we go. See if it loads. I have a Spartan U goal tracker that I made for my classroom. And again, it's just a basic Excel sheet that I did for the kids. We have all their names and they input their own reading goal. I didn't tell them what to do. I said, you put a goal however you want to do it. So they're tallying up each month their books, and I'll pick a student. See down here at the bottom, if you can see, each student has their own tab. So this is a class document, but they have their tabs. So let me pick on one. Yeah. So like this student, for October, she tallied how many she did. November, how many she did. I let the kids use a symbol, letter, number, whatever they want. And of course, teacher discretion. If they're doing novels or chapter books, it's up to you to decide how you want them to equal books, just depending on the book that they have. So again, that's just an option to do. Okay. Okay, so here we go. How often do data talks happen? I know this is very similar to what we talked about in the morning, But so I'm not going to make you go into the breakout rooms again, because it's a very similar question that what you all did this morning, talking about how often do you do it in your classroom. So I just want you to kind of reflect a little bit and think, how often do you have the data talks, like the actual talks with the kids? I know you track data. I know you tell the kids, here's your score, but how often do you really talk with them about it? How often do you reflect with them? So I'm going to give you just a minute to think about it. And is it never okay? If anybody wants to just unmute yourself and let's just talk. Let's just have a discussion to kind of self-reflect. How often do you talk with your kids? I mean, we as teachers have those talks with their admin, right? With their bosses. We do our data reflections. So you're the boss of your classroom. How often do you do it with your kids?
Can I share something, Miss Graham?
Yes, go ahead.
Just because I get to see several teachers, I know that was our biggest conversation with lots of teachers and PLCs, and is that they're running out of time. I don't know how the virtual world seems to eat up more time, but they're running out of time. So there was a suggestion from one grade level that I wanted to share. I'm going to share at my campus, but since there are other people here, that this might be a good way that you could do it that I've never thought of. This teacher, what they're doing is they're doing like all the tier ones, since data talks have always been like one-on-one. It was taking up too much time because it ends up being about 15 minutes with each student, and then you have 25 students, and you're like, well, that was my day. Like there's no like too long. So two suggestions. The one teacher is meeting like all the tier ones, like all the tier ones that have similar, she's grouping them. So like, okay, all of you have the same problems or around the same level. So I'm going to group you and I'm going to talk to you guys together. The tier twos is also grouped because they also have similar like conversations, and only on the tier threes are they doing like the one-on-one data talks. So I was like, that's interesting. And she's like, and so far it's been working because they all have similar, and then they can talk to each other. Like, oh, that's right. Or I can help you with that. Or no, and they're in the same kind of level so that they don't feel like intimidated. Like, well, there's a tier one in here and I don't know how to do it. And they're going to. So it was just an idea that another teacher had that I was like, wow, I can't take credit for it. Hold on, baby. So that was really good. Okay, sorry, I'll better go.
It's okay. Thank you, Ms. Macias. I like that. I'd never thought about that, because you're right. I think the time constraint is like, it's hard on us right now. It does take a long time. So I like that idea. Anybody else have any other suggestions or anything?
Ms. Graham, I think I'm not sure if Ms. Macias was going to share one of the other ideas that our campus was also reflecting upon, but some of our teachers are also doing like the Flipgrid conferences with students. So where you're not spending so much time during the instructional day, but if you have you look at their data, you can send them a message through Flipgrid and conference with them through Flipgrid. Not only Flipgrid, but you can use Screencastify. You can use those different components where you send out the messages and then the students respond to you. So you're not taking up that time during the instructional day, just focusing on those goal setting conferences and those data meetings.
Perfect. I love that. I love that. Thank you, Ms. Polano. Thank you, Ms. Macias, again for sharing. Wonderful ideas. Okay. So now we ask, how will self-monitoring help your students? We know how the data talks help us as teachers when we're talking to our administrators, but how can it help the kiddos? So besides giving them control over their own learning path, I've seen a lot of my students' confidence grow, because many of the kids, they're nervous or they're embarrassed to ask for help. Especially right now in virtual learning, we really don't know who's behind the scenes struggling to do problems, to do work. So they're nervous. They don't like asking for help. But the data tracking, the self-monitoring really gives them a sense of like, okay, I can do this. I can help myself, essentially, is what it's going to be. I had a student, I'm just going to give a quick example. I did have a student, we had independent work time, and he comes into the chat and he's like, Ms. Graham, I looked at my math menu and I finished all my must-dos. He's like, I don't want to do the may-dos. Can I keep working on my galaxy stars? And I said, yeah. I said, why? He said, because that's my low objective. I need to get better. I was like, oh, yes. So like my teacher heart was just like, oh, Melty, I love when they take that ownership and they want to keep doing better. So it's great. And this goes for all the classroom demographics, Gen Ed, SPED, EL, Tier 1, GT. This will drive the kids to strive for their own progress in an independent way where they feel like they're in control. So I really like that a lot. And also, one of the key things is to celebrate your kids. When you see them making that progress, give them that verbal feedback. Like right now, Ms. Poblano said, using a flip grid, or maybe even in those tier 1 or tiered groups, talk to them, celebrate them, say, hey, you know what, Miguel, you did really, really great. I saw that you improved on this tier, or I saw you reached your reading goal for the month. I saw you improved in iStation. When you celebrate the kids and you're positive, you show that enthusiasm, they're going to keep wanting to, I don't want to say impress you, but keep wanting to grow so that they make you happy, but they're also happy themselves. And of course, for those that are falling behind, just continue to motivate them, continue to push them and have them, reach those expectations and reach those goals. So now we're going to take just a real quick reflection that I have as a takeaway. And it's just that the data isn't just for adults. It's not just for us teachers and leadership. It's also for the kids. And they will begin to hold themselves accountable. They will be able to see like, oh man, I got to get better at place value. Got to get better at doing summary or my fluency, my oral language. And although it is student-centered, the teachers still need to be present. We still need to guide the kiddos. As we're coaching them and teaching them these ways, we still have to help them. And it coaches the students to become confident, also confident learners, as I said. And of course, in the end, it's all worth it. So I have a Padlet here that I'm going to put the link in for you all just to keep y'all engaged. And it says, how about you? What is one takeaway that you have from this session? One of the things, whether it's something we just learned, anything that you want to type in the Padlet, let me put the link in the chat. If you'll just click the link and just tell me a takeaway, something that stuck with you. Okay, and here it is. And it should take you directly to our Padlet, and it says data tracking and self-monitoring. I already see some typing. That's awesome.
Debbie, do you mind if I ask you a question? It's Deanna again.
Oh, yes. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Are you giving the students like individual TEKs after unit assessments? I was talking in my small group, the breakout room right now, about that's been the struggle this year, is not giving them their individual printouts, things that we used to put in the folders, like what I did with my 6th graders last year. And so that's where my struggle is this year.
No, it's okay. And I know we're all kind of like that right now where we can't just give it to them. So like I had shown you in my bulb where they have access to each unit assessment. It has all I do is I cut out their ID and their indicator. So it has their name and all the TEKs. So if it's red, they'll be able to see like, oh, okay, 4.7B, I didn't get that. So it's there for them because I'm trying to take the workload off my shoulders, give it to them, be like, here you go. Here's your data. You go figure it out. Of course, it's going to take time. You got to guide them. And you teaching 3rd graders, they're still little. So you got to kind of guide them through it. But I'm telling you, with practice and practice and practice, they won't even ask you anymore. And I see Ms. Macias is like, yeah, I agree, right? With enough practice, they'll take it on themselves. So hopefully that helped. Yeah. Okay. You're welcome. You're welcome. So I'm going to go over to the Padlet screen really quick and look at some of your comments. Oh, this is awesome. I'm going to keep this and I'm going to print it and frame it. I love it. Wonderful. Co-brands. Awesome. Good. So it looks like we've got a lot of good comments here. So I appreciate you participating and sharing. I am going to keep that tab open for myself so that I can just go through it a little bit later and share that with you all. I did also want to do one more thing, if you don't mind. Just speaking of Flipgrid, I want to share with you all. I asked student and parent permission to share a video. I had my students do a reflection of data tracking. And it was just a simple answer, a simple question. How do you feel about data tracking? How has it helped you? And so I have a student here who made her Flipgrid video, and I'm going to share it with you because I want you to hear the student perspective. Because it's a lot of teaching, talking, and I'm up here, the adult talking. I want you to hear the student side. So I'm going to play it, and if you, Miss Macias, I see on my other screen, if you can hear it okay, give me thumbs up. If it's echoey, do this. Okay,
Yes,
thank you. Thank you so much.
Questions
Okay,
in the data tracker thing. Questions in the data tracker thing.
Echo.
It's echo. Okay, let me mute myself.
So how do I feel about the data tracker after we learned how to use it and fill it in? I feel good now. I can go like check my iStation, my test. So how can it help me improve? For example, if like when I'm done with all my work, there's nothing to do, then I can go to my data tracker and see so I'm on tier 2. I need 60 hours of iStation per week. I can go work on my iStation, or if I see my math grade and on the last test we took, I got for example, a 60 something, I can work on whatever we took the last test. Or I can see my data, on my supply, like all my stuff, all my grades, not all my grades, but my test grades, my writing grades, my math grades, my science grades. I can see all of that. I don't have to be asking the teacher every time, what's my grade, what's my grade, what's my grade. So, yeah.
Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. It's because it's still red. So I'm like, and yes, Mr. Rodriguez, I make them do 60 hours a week, 90 hours. No, she was mistaken. Of course, it's the minutes. And so it's not the hours. The kids have on their menus, they know if they're tier 1, 30 minutes per week, tier 2, 60 per week, tier 3, 90. It's not hours. I don't torture my kids that much, believe me. So that I just wanted you to, again, just to hear from the student perspective, how they feel on the data tracking. Okay.
I think it may just feel like 60 or 90 hours, but it's not.
I think so too. No, it's not at all. No. So I know we have a few minutes left, so I have a little imagination. I'm going to show 2 images to you today just to see how do they relate to today's session. So here's the first image. You don't have to respond, just kind of think, how is that relating to today? Is it kind of like, ay, what are we doing? Or do you feel like this? Hopefully it's that second image that you feel a little bit more confident and knowing that it's easy to do. Well, okay, not easy. You can do it. You have the ability to do it and to train your kids and coach them into doing it. So before we wrap up, I know it's cutting it short a little bit early, but I cannot take all the credit. I cannot take all the credit for this at all. I work at a campus with exceptional teachers, a phenomenal leadership team, and I've learned so much from all of them. My colleagues in my grade level, which I know some are here today, teachers in other grade levels, my instructional coaches, my admin, these are the people that I learn from and then I grow. So I can't take all the credit. I really give a lot of credit to East Point, of course, and for the district for bringing in blended learning for the kids and for putting such a beautiful platform of personalized learning, individualized learning, and differentiated. So there's my email for you. If you have any questions. I am going to stick back a little bit so I can collect the email of those who wanted some resources. And of course, there's my Twitter handle if you'd like to do a little follow. So, are there any questions or any ending comments before we go? No, let me stop the presenting. And that's it. I hope y'all learned something.